Hi everyone, my name is Greg Godowski. I'm the Region 1 Webmaster and also serve as the section chair for the Rochester section of IEEE. I often get asked the question, how do I set up a meeting so that it will appear on the calendar within the section or the region? In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to give you a short demonstration as to how you can do that yourself. It often helps to have first a flyer of your meeting. The one that I have shown here on the right of the monitor is the one that I'll create a meeting for within IEEE, within the Vtools system. So let's go ahead and get started. This session will last probably about 15 minutes, but by the end, you really should be able to create your own meeting notifications in the future. Now on the Rochester section web pages, I've created some resources for doing this a little easier. Under Volunteer Resources, you'll find a menu item called Setting Up a Chapter Meeting. Go ahead and click on that menu item and you'll see that it brings you to essentially a step-by-step method for doing everything related to setting up a chapter meeting. The first of which is to set up your meeting notification system so that it will appear on the calendar. That's step one. So go ahead and click step one, the button shown here on this web page, and it should take you to the Vtools notification system. Okay, hopefully you're now on this web page, and the first thing that you have to check is to make sure that you're actually logged into Vtools. Otherwise you won't be able to create a meeting. So you can see that right here. So if you click the sign in button, you can log in into Vtools. And once you're logged in, you'll see your name to the left of the welcome sign on this web page. Okay, now you're ready to start creating a meeting. And so we'll do that by hitting this third menu item called Schedule a Meeting. When you do that, it's going to open up a form which has all of the fields that you'll need to fill out for a particular meeting. Okay, here we go. All right, so the items that you see on this page, again, all of the fields that you have to fill out that describe your meeting. The ones highlighted in red are the ones that you'll have to fill out. They're mandatory. The other ones are optional, and we'll go through some of those as we create this meeting. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to need is the event title. So I'm going to copy the title of this particular meeting from my document, and I will paste it into the event title. And just for the purposes of this training session, I'm going to put test in front so that I can easily identify the meeting down the road when we're done. Now, event category is the next thing that you'll have to select. That's a pull-down menu to the right. This is a professional meeting, but you could log it as a technical meeting. These are important because these are the flags that identify how many events your chapter has had, and the section's rebate is actually based on technical presentations. So you'll want to be sure that you select the event category properly for your particular meeting. For this one, I will select professional. Now you'll notice that the subcategory button has turned red, and so I will have to select a subcategory for a professional meeting. And this one will be professional development, but it could be anything, to be honest. The next is the description of the event. And in this case, I don't have a prefabricated one, so I'm just going to create one. It's to bring the best engineers in Rochester together. I can change the formatting of that. There are lots of different options for that. I'm just going to leave it as is, but you can bold, you can do some advanced formatting, change the sizes as an example. But again, you know, what you see right now is just fine. Now, if you have an agenda, let's say you're going to have networking session, or you're going to have hors d'oeuvres, or you're going to have a keynote presentation, and you want people to know what the overall schedule is for the meeting or the agenda, that would be where you would paste that in. So for this meeting, I'm going to go ahead and copy the agenda, And I'm going to go up here and I'll say paste and match style. So you'll see now that it looks fairly similar to what I had in my Word document to the right. I'm going to edit this just a little bit so that it looks a little cleaner, just by deleting out some of the spaces. I'm going to make these bullet items because I think they happen to look a little bit better. Oops, I missed one. Fairly straightforward process. Again, I'm going to delete some of the spaces here because I know that'll make it look better. But very quickly, okay, now I have a great agenda. It's sometimes nice to have a picture that you can associate with the meeting. I typically like to use the header of our web pages for this because everybody recognizes it from the Rochester section. I happen to have that on my computer system, which you'll have to have handy when you create this notification. It can't just be pasted into the Word document. You actually have to have the JPEG or the PNG file located somewhere on your computer, and you'll have to navigate that to find it so that you can load it. I've already done that, and so here is the header for our section web pages. I'm going to go ahead and select that as the meeting notification picture. Now notice you're not going to see the picture on this form. It's only going to tell you that the file is going to be used for that. You'll see later how that picture is going to fall onto the meeting notification, but don't panic quite yet if you don't see the picture on the page. It's normal. I always invite the students. That's the next checkbox, so I'm going to go ahead and check that. The next set of fields are really related to when the meeting is, if there's a registration deadline for that, and where the meeting is going to be located. So we'll start off by setting some of the dates. This particular meeting is offered on April 19th. You'll notice here's the start time of the meeting. In order to change that, you have to click on this little icon, the little calendar icon located to the right. If you click on that, that will bring up a miniature calendar. You can then select the 19th. It'll be highlighted in white. And then the next thing to do is to change the time. So it starts at 4. Once you've selected all of the appropriate things, then just hit OK. And now you'll see that the start time of the meeting is correct. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the end time. The meeting is, again, it's on the 19th. It's going to end at 9 p.m. Then I'll hit OK. There is a registration for this meeting, but for the purposes of this training session, we're not really going to have a registration window. So I'm just going to say click here to disable registration. That's located on the screen right here. So go ahead and do that, and that will disable the registration. Now you're going to have to pick the time zone. You want people to come at the right time. So you're going to look for United States. It'll be down near the bottom, and Eastern. When you select the right field, it should look something like this. Okay, now we're going to fill out information about where the meeting is. This is actually really important because the meeting notification will contain a calendar for your event so that people can navigate to the right location. It's easiest to add an address. So this will be at the RIT Inn and Conference Center. Again, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it as the building. There you go. If you had a word number, you would also add that. The address is also important. Again, I could just put in the city of where it's located, but it might be nice for the map to actually locate to the building where the event is, so make sure to add the street address. This happens to be located in Rochester. Again, now you're going to pull down the country. That should be United States, shown here. Now this blank box to the right is actually the state, so go ahead and fill that out as well. And of course that will be New York. And the postal code will be 14618 or something close to it. Now if you happen to have a map URL, you could do that as an alternative. Or, if you were going to have this meeting at the top of a mountain and it didn't have a building, but you had the latitude and longitude, you can actually override that by entering in the coordinates. But for now, we're going to leave it at the RIT Inn and Conference Center. Okay, so the next fields that you're going to enter are who is having the meeting. All right, and this will depend a little bit on the privileges for you for setting up the meeting wherever you're located. So for example, most of you seeing this training video will only be able to have section 1, region 1 meetings. So 1 will be the only option that you have. If you're located in a particular section, when you log in, it will automatically detect which sections you're able to create meeting notices for. In this case, it will be Rochester. Okay. Now, the organizational unit is the community within your section. So, for example, I could have this meeting notice go to the entire section, as shown here, or I could particularly target it to individual communities like EMBS, Life members, MTT, photonics, signal processing. You would have to select the correct organizational unit below, and hopefully you recognize some of the short codes for each of those organizational units, like EMB 18 is actually the EMBS group within Rochester. The photonics is photonics 36. You'd have to locate and understand what those are within your section, but they're usually pretty intuitive. But for today, I'm going to just select sections. So this will go out to the entire section. So these 3 items should look something like this. Now the next thing I'm going to have to fill out is a contact email address. That is required. I usually put in my own email. Please use your email, not my email, for your particular meeting. Okay. Whoops, I hit enter by accident, so I'm going to just hit the back button. Sorry about that. Now you could add extra contact information like your phone number or your address, or if you had a different place where you could register for the meeting, you could put that in as well. But it's not really necessary for creating a meeting notification. The next thing you really need to do is you need to add information about any speakers that you have. And this is where you can add some unique content to the meeting notification. So in this particular case, I'm going to click the first speaker information. That will bring up fields that describe what the speaker is going to speak about, who he is, whether you can contact him or not, and so forth. So let's go ahead and do that. So in this case, the presentation being given at this meeting is the IMAX laser projection system from 0 to insane in 2 years. Yes, it looks to be a fun meeting. So I'm going to go paste that in for the topic. Now the description would be the abstract of the meeting. So in this case, I have that already handy as part of this flyer. I'm going to go and copy and paste that in, and if the paste doesn't show up when you hit the right click, just go back up to the top of the menu and hit paste and match style, and now you can see it. Now again, I can change the way this looks. I can bold things, I can bullet certain items, I can do lots of different things. I'm not going to go through that here, but it's pretty self-explanatory. If you just look at the menu options here, you can change the way this looks fairly easily. Okay, now I'm going to go copy the name of the person in that's giving the presentation, and that would be Barry Silverstein. He happens to have a PhD. Now for the display name, that's how you want this particular speaker, what you want to reference him to. Usually I just copy the full name and paste it in for the display name. Now let's say this speaker had a LinkedIn page, they had a Facebook page, or they had a faculty page that gave someone an overview of what that person does. You can copy that URL and you can paste it in here, and that way when people come to look at the meeting, they could go to that other web page to look for additional information about the speaker. I've used this, it's very handy at times. For this particular meeting, it's not really that important. You can also add the address of this person in the fields below. Again, not essential. I usually don't include their email address so that there's some level of confidentiality, but you can add that in if you'd like to. I think it is important to add the biography of the person. That really does add to the content when someone looks at this. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that into that field. And again, just like before, I can change the way this looks. I could change the font, you could change the size, you could do whatever you want, and that's fine. This person was employed at Kodak, so I'm going to go ahead and put Kodak in the organization where he's at. It's also really nice to have a speaker photograph. Now I have one in the flyer, but again, you're going to have this on your computer somewhere. So it's sometimes easier to do this before you create the meeting notification, but I happen to have his picture on my computer. So I'm going to hit choose file, and you'll see I have an image file of him located on my computer. There it is. I'm going to choose that picture. Again, the picture is not going to appear on this screen quite yet. When you finish completing all of the fields and you hit create the meeting, it'll show you what the meeting notification is going to look like, and that will include the pictures. So again, don't panic at this point in time. Stick with me and we'll get through it. All right, so there's no second speaker, so I'm going to pass on this button. You might have more things about the meeting. You might want to put a header or a footer in on the meeting notification that describes other aspects of the meeting. It's not really needed, so don't worry about that. If you had menu selections, you could add them in. In this case, we have strip steak and salmon and so forth. It's a big meeting for us. But just to give you an example, I'm going to put salmon there. And now you'll see that it's added salmon. If you wanted to add a second, you might hit steak. And you could keep doing that until you've completed your menu items. At this point, that's really it. I'm going to hit create and we'll see what happens. Hopefully this is going to work. Okay, so I've hit create. Now I had a particular problem. I forgot something. So that's going to happen occasionally. Don't panic. You'll see here that it tells you the field that you happen to forget. In this case, I forgot to add meeting keywords. Now these keywords are the types of things that people would use to search for your meeting. So joint chapter meeting, IMAX, because that's in the title of the presentation. I might put Kodak, in case there are lots of Kodak meetings at IEEE. It might be nice to find that. Okay, now I've created that field. I'm going to go to the bottom, and again, I'm going to say create. Hopefully it's going to work. Yay. Okay, so now it says the meeting was successfully created. And, you know, I often find this to be a frustrating window because I look and I say, where is it? I don't have any meetings in Germany or in San Francisco or in Princeton. So the simplest thing to do to alleviate that stress is to hit this button which says upcoming meetings for my section. So when you click that, now you'll see all of the meetings that are coming up. And here you can see Test 2016 Rochester Section Joint Chapter Meeting. That's the, if you recall, that's the meeting I just created. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it'll come up shortly. And there it is. You'll notice that some of my pictures didn't show up. Now that was because I had an error and I had to correct a field, and every time you do that it loses the pictures. So this is a little disappointing, but it's easily solved. Watch this. I'm now going to go to the bottom. I'm going to say edit. All right, and that's going to reopen the window that has all of those fields. And you'll see, oh, my file got lost for the meeting picture. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that again. The same thing was true for the invited speaker. So I'm going to click on the speaker information. I'm going to reselect the picture of the keynote speaker. And I'm going to say change. Voila, there it is. So now they've updated the meeting. You can see those pictures that I've added. And this is looking fairly attractive at this point. I'm fairly happy. You can see there are other things that you could add and edit, but for now, this is perfect. Okay, this is exactly what you'd like to see. Here you can see the map to the location. You can see the keynote presentation, the speaker with his picture and his bio. Perfect. A short description of the meeting. It's a little formatted funny, so I would probably edit that again, but in general, this is it. You're good to go. Now here is the big benefit of this, okay? Now I've created this meeting here. Watch what happens. If I go back to my web pages, you'll see that there is a calendar located at the bottom of our web pages. Now the meeting hasn't been added yet, but what happens is every 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes, this calendar on my web page is going to update automatically by loading stuff directly from Vtools. I don't have to do anything extra. The webmaster does nothing. Okay, so it'll just show up on this calendar and it will bring all of the information in from that meeting automatically. And so if I were to click on one of these, you'll see that. And so, okay, so here's the meeting that I had created. You'll see that it has some of that information on it. If you wanted to view the original, you could do that. And you'll see it in a second. And so there's that meeting that I just created. All done automatically without a webmaster. And this is precisely why it is so important for you to create your meetings using the Vtools system. So please feel free to contact me if you have more information that you need regarding how to create a meeting for your section or for the Rochester section. It's really a straightforward thing to do. This training session took, I think, 15 minutes or so, but in reality is that the next time that you go about doing this, it gets easier and easier and easier. And I can tell you that now that I've been doing this for a while, it literally takes me 5 minutes to create a meeting creating a meeting notice. So please give it a try. I hope this session helped you. Take care for now. Look forward to seeing you in the next training session.